Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Finance for Monday, June 17th, 2024 order. First item on the agenda, public forum. Anybody wishing to address the board in public forum? Seeing none. Item number 2, approve minutes of our regular meeting minutes of May 20th, 2024. We'll have those and then we'll have the special meeting minutes. We'll do them separately. So I have a motion on the regular meeting on May 20th.
So moved?
Second.
Any comments, corrections?
I had one.
Sure.
Just the transposition of the R and the E in my first name. And then on page 3, and the paragraph that begins substitute teachers is over by 31,000. I think, if I remember the gist of this, but it says they've had to raise what they offer them. I think that should be the school district has had to raise what they offer substitute teachers, just to make it clearer. And that in the last sentence of that paragraph, that the line item for safety, sanitation, building, and upkeep of grounds shows that it's over budget, but hopefully it will come in either under budget or closer to the budget. And then lastly, the line that begins site improvements always run over. It says once they know where Cliff Gurnham is at the end of the year, but I think we'll know where Mr. Gurnham is. It's just what the number is for the building improvements.
That was one of those paragraphs. There's a lot of assumptions that could be made on what the
I
its
mean,
and
let me
is's
put it
are.
this way.
Because I had actually a
If you
couple
were
on that
Cliff,
same
though.
paragraph.
I hope we know where Mr. Gurnham is at the end of
But
the
if you were
school
Cliff,
year.
would you want,
No.
Not always.
you want us to know?
Is that it for that paragraph? Because just staying in that same paragraph, I
Yeah,
just.
there's in that same
it-
paragraph,
Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
hard to come by.
Yep.
You just need a by.
I had
Yeah.
that. Come
Okay.
by, yeah.
Yep.
Anything else on that? Okay. I was just going to say where it says it shows over and then comma, adding the word budget after over, just to make sure it's clear. Anything else?
Just
Jeff, do you have more?
going down a little, the next paragraph, it was noted that the second sentence, it was noted that most of the projects are maintenance items or unforeseen repairs that come up that the Board of Education or the schools could not predict, rather than they.
There's a small typo on page 5, under the motion under number 8. There's an N missing from uncollectibles.
And then on page 4, it's under item 6. I think it says Mr. Hartman said normally in the accounting world these things are signaled in advance and they seem to be caught by surprise. I think he meant they seem to have caught us by surprise. Is that accurate?
CLA seemed to be caught by
Yeah.
surprise.
Or
well,
What did
seems like something is missing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it sure was. Yeah, caught us by surprise would be fine.
Page 5, item, third paragraph. Mr. Hartman said it is unprofessional and he is in the mood to have them with an M.
Just a paragraph above that, the paragraph that begins, Ms. Malavesi said she told, I think she told CLA that this may not go over well.
I would just remind the board, it was just based on a couple of comments, I know we have First Selectman on, so I don't know how well he can hear. So just make sure we speak up so he can hear. And Mr. DeMayo is joining us too from Standing Building Committee, so just make sure our voices project a little bit for them. Anything else on the minutes for the regular meeting of May 20th? Otherwise, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention?
I abstain as well. Special meeting minutes of May 29th. These were the meeting minutes where we set the mill rate. It was very short. So do I hear a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Okay. The one item I saw was after the, in the first paragraph where it says the 2.70 increase, we should say, just have percent after the 2.70. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Any opposed?
sorry.
Sorry? Opposed? Abstentions?
No,
Right here.
just clerk.
Abstain.
Sorry, just caught.
Abstentions for Mr. Hartman and...
No, not an abstention. I just
Oh,
caught-
no.
I
Oh,
caught
wait a
him.
minute. Yeah, you were
Never
there.
mind. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll abstain.
I knew there were five. Okay, thank
No, we're
you.
good.
Wrong person.
No, I
And
just-
Veronica.
Veronica, yeah, we got
I
it.
abstain.
Yep, thank you. Okay. Okay, that's it for the minutes. Item number 3, correspondence, standing building committee minutes. We have those in front of us from June 4th of 2024. Chairman DeMayo is on Zoom with us. Good evening, David. Good to see you.
Good evening, all.
Does anybody have any comments or questions regarding the standing building committee minutes?
I have a question.
Veronica, please.
On item number 8 for the Adams Middle School Stream Project, can you refresh my memory what that's about? What the project is about?
Drainage issues along the southerly border of the Baldwin School property where the
No, this is Adams.
basketball courts are and the ball field is. And this project's mission is to improve the drainage of those fields.
This is Adams Middle School?
Adams, I'm sorry, yes, Adams, I
Yeah.
said Baldwin.
Okay.
Ball field.
Adams, yes, Adams Middle School.
Okay, so it's drainage.
This is something that we ran into years ago, isn't it? And it's silt that builds up from the flow for the East Riverside, and we've been through this once.
It could be that I think it's prior to my time on the standing
Yeah,
building committee,
okay.
so this is new to me.
Yeah,
There were issues years ago, you're
Yeah.
correct.
we kind of know why.
It seems to be a sediment issue.
Yep.
Okay. I have a question regarding item number 7. It's probably going to be in the next meeting minutes or in July, but on the Baldwin HVAC project, the bid opening was scheduled for Thursday, June 6th, and 2 companies attended the walkthrough. Just curious how that worked out. Usually we're used to seeing a couple of more companies.
I have not heard from Cliff on that.
You have not, okay.
Okay, so he hasn't reached out to me. I can reach out to him tomorrow and see,
It-
I know he mentioned.
I'm sure it'll be reflected in the July meeting minutes. I was just curious if the 2 companies that attended submitted and if there was any action on it. Not critical.
Okay,
Thank you, though.
you're welcome.
I do want to note for the board that item number 16, under old business discussion on how the committee should think about handling small change orders, where the standing building committee might have concerns about the COs or change orders. We do intend, actually, our first selectman, myself, and Mr. DeMayo are meeting, I believe it's tomorrow afternoon, virtually, to discuss this. So we'll have something hopefully to report after so many meetings that we've seen this under old business. So we'll be discussing that then, and we'll report back our discussions. Anything else under standing building? Other than that, I think we're all set for this evening. Thank you, David.
My pleasure, thank you, folks.
Appreciate your time as always. Take care. Item number 2, pension committee minutes and monthly report. Pension committee from May 15th. And noticed just on the pension report that it's up from the beginning of the fiscal year, down from last month. That will be the same for the OPEB monthly report. But any comments on the meeting minutes?
There was some discussion about going out to bid for vendors.
This is in the pension, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, what page?
It's on item 7, I guess.
Item 7, under old business.
So it's just something that I think, like where you go out to bid from time to time for our audit, it's good that they're thinking about ways to reduce the costs associated with the pension funds.
Yeah, it doesn't have a page number, but I see where you're talking about. It's basically the last page, I
Yep.
believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, item number 7.
Number 7, last page of that, yeah. Or actually, last page of the, yeah, okay. That would be something that we'll get information on
Yeah. They're just getting
July,
started.
August,
They're just
when
getting
they're,
started.
we're considering it, so. Okay. All right, anything else on pension or OPEB? Otherwise, we'll move on. Item number 4, discuss and take possible action on the negotiation of an additional fee in the CLA statement of work related to the implementation of 4 new risk auditing standards, SAS. Executive session may be required. So what I'm going to, what I would recommend is that we do go into executive session to discuss, because ultimately this is contract negotiation, discussing finances and the contract. So I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session, and I believe we can invite everybody who's in the room, Linda Trudeau, Mary Jane Malvasi, Nicolette McTeague, and our secretary and the board. And Michael, I know you're here on camera, but we're going to executive session, so yeah.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. We'll just wait a second. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we just finished executive session. Do I hear a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so regarding item number 4, we are going to put in the form of a motion the request of CLA for additional fee of $3,500. So I'll entertain a motion to reject the additional fee of $3,500 related to implementation of the risk auditing standards that were presented in the email on May 6th.
So second.
Any further discussion? I guess not, because it was executive session. So. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Appreciate that. We'll move on. Thank you for your patience, Kristen.
Sorry, I have 2 meetings.
It's
At
okay.
the exact same time.
Well, item number 5, review and accept the report of expenditures for the Board of Education for May 2024. Come on up.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Nice to see everyone. Happy summer.
Same here.
Okay, expenditures for the month of May were $5,404,703.91, which puts us at nearly identical percentages of the budget as compared to this time last year. Revenue for May was interesting. We made $204,305, which includes a $180,091 grant for excess cost grant. That represents the last 25% of that grant money. We received the first 75% in February. So I'm sure this is something you're all familiar with. The total for the year for that grant is $6,222.572, and that is putting us at about a 68.1% reimbursement from the state for eligible special education expenses.
You meant 600,000, right?
622,572.
Okay.
And actually, sorry to
the total for the year is actually $802,663. That number was the tuition, amount applied to tuition. So it was closer to the tuition number. Sorry.
No, thank you. Okay. Salaries this year are going to be under budget. We had a few positions that we were not able to fill. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the teacher shortages and the substitution shortages that we've had for the year. So that's leaving us under budget, which is not necessarily great news. But hopefully that will be rectified next year, as we should have an abundance of teachers available. Other mentionables, purchased services this year are going to be over budget by a bit. We had to actually go out of district to get some special services, some special service providers for some special education students. So that cost us more than being able to do that in-house as we had budgeted. Our electric rates were a little bit kaluji this year. I know you've heard about that all year long, but that's contributing to why purchase services are going to be high. Let's see, what else, Linda, is worth pointing out from this month?
I think it's important to note that tuition is going to be under budget for the year, and that overall we definitely will be under budget for the year, which is always a good thing.
So there'll be obviously transfers.
There will definitely be
between
transfers, yes.
Yeah.
Once we get through,
Yeah, we'll
really
find
through,
out about those.
really through July when
July,
we get through July when we finish paying all the bills. So probably would be the August meeting when we'll do the transfers.
Under purchase services, noticed, I did read the last couple months about dues and fees. Are we getting some reimbursement on dues and fees? Was that the IB program?
Yes, the ID diploma fees, yes.
Okay, so there was some
We'll get
reimbursement there.
Yeah, we'll get that back.
And professional and technical services,
Is the
Was-
special education audit.
okay, right. Special services, I realized,
Mm-hmm.
because of the out of district.
And this one, the special services was a little different because we had an employee on a long-term leave, and in order to fill those services that employee would provide, we had to contract. So yes, we have the savings in salaries, but it put purchase services over.
Okay. I'll open up to the board. Questions?
Ask about a couple more outliers, sorry.
Sure.
Might be a repeat from last meeting, so I
Okay.
missed it a little bit. So, safety, sanitation, and upkeep of building and grounds looks over pretty substantially.
Yes.
There was some, I remember reading about the encumbrances.
Right,
So, does Cliff know yet how much?
he has not given me back that information yet, but I would assume that 288,000 is definitely going to come down. It's still going to be over,
Right,
but it won't be $647,000 over.
right. Okay.
Maybe
Yes.
more 400 ballpark.
Somewhere around there, yes.
All right, and then maybe professional tech and services,
Yeah,
that was a
that-
little bit of a chunk there.
That was the one that was the study.
That was the special education study that was done, which
Did it run
we.
over?
Yeah, so it wasn't budgeted, and so we, originally were going to do half of it this year, half of it next year, but we decided to do all of it this year and get it done, so that we could take the results from the survey and apply it to next year, or the
Which in
audit.
turn would be, hopefully, would turn into cost savings.
Right, so, the whole cost of the audit is being paid out of here, so it was unbudgeted.
What was the amount again, Linda?
Total was
It
80,000.
was 80, okay.
And has it been completed?
I know they were finalizing it, they had received a draft of it.
Okay.
I don't think it's been distributed out anywhere yet.
We haven't seen it yet.
But you should have it in time for next school year.
It sounds like it, yes.
Great.
And then the substitute teachers, that looks like it's actually over budget. So-
Yep. Substitute teachers, we have had a lot of teacher absences, we've had teachers on leave, we've had positions we haven't been able to fill, so there have been a lot of things. We've also have increased the salary amount that we're paying subs in order to try and attract subs, because we can't even get subs. They said last Friday, 2 Fridays ago, there was like 75 teacher absences across the district
Wow.
Last Friday,
last Friday.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Anecdotally, I've heard that.
yes. Yeah, the teacher absences all year have been high, but it seems like we've hit a lot of them lately. Which is why, if you remember when we put together the budget for next year, we increased the budget line for substitutes to try and accommodate for this kind of an overage.
Okay, and then on the dues and fees, you said we'd probably get back the 34,
It won't be all of it, but
35,000.
we'll get back part of it.
Okay. So instead of looking at the lines, I'll just look at the totals and try and smile. Be happy. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
No, you can look at the lines, it's fine.
The only other item I had was special education buses. And I guess it would make sense, now that you've explained it, it makes sense that would go over because there's more students or there's more outplacement,
There's a couple factors to that.
Yeah.
So we had to add an additional bus in district for special ed requirement transportations.
Okay.
We added the transportation for the Transition Academy. When we did the bid, we only had 2 bidders, so one of our major bidders didn't submit a bid. They dropped the ball. So we were down to 2 bidders, which meant in some cases we had to take the higher rate. Where we would have probably stayed with the other carrier, we lost one of our bidders. So I made sure they got it this year. Hopefully they will be back.
Do you expect them to come back?
We expect them to come back. They've asked specifically to get the bid again. I've made sure that they've gotten it. So hopefully they will be back again and they will be bidding. So they were very disappointed that they couldn't submit a bid last year, but I couldn't let them. There was no reason
No.
Right.
for me to allow it.
This won't change anything on the expense side, but do we have an idea about the percentage overall of kids that take the bus versus those who are driven to school?
Question.
I don't know it, but I could find out that information for you. It's not, ridership is not something that I get involved in.
No, I just wonder if it's a topic of
Isn't
conversation.
it like the first day of school is 100% and then it's, right?
Yeah. Well,
Right?
it's
Federal requirement, though.
Oh, no, I know that, but I'm just saying, like, the first day of school, I think,
No.
isn't it something like all the students need to take the bus and then after that?
Yeah, it
I remember
dwindles-
something like
dwindles
that.
down.
And then it just off the cliff.
But the other thing is, we are required by law to have a seat for every kid
Oh,
on
we
the
know,
bus.
yeah, I know, it's
So,
not
yeah,
gonna,
it's
not
we
gonna change
can't-
anything on the expense side, I'm
That's-
working on an
that's-
idea for the revenue
That's
side.
beyond our level. Yeah, we know.
Charge the parents.
Can I ask you about 2 more? I forgot about this
I don't
last
think we
page.
can.
No.
No, I'm sorry, not you. I was
More
talking to
quick
Mr. Herman. I don't think we can,
Volunteer basis.
oh, okay.
What's that? You can't,
I think that violates federal law.
Yeah,
So-
you have to have a seat for every student?
It's-
Yeah.
it's
Even if
part
you
of-
did it on a volunteer, you'd still be violating
It comes up
federal
every
law.
year as a question, why do we have to provide a seat? Why do we have
Because
to
it's
provide
still
all
part of
these, this
providing
busing?
free-
for
Oh, we know,
Free
no, we know we
education.
can't, we
That's
can't
the
change
law.
the expense, but
Yeah.
if
Right.
people wanted to kick in for not availing themselves of the service and pay
I
to
don't
drop
think we
off
can.
kids, you know, $1 here, $5 there.
You'd have
it'd
to
be
see
wonderful.
how that would impact their other funding, because you gotta, if you do something like that, that then impacts any like state or federal money that comes in, then you lose out on that money. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's not like it's a little more complicated than that.
We wouldn't tell them.
I don't wanna know.
Kind you had a
Yeah,
couple more.
Linda, sorry,
It's okay.
I've been out of it for a little bit, but I'm just curious about site improvement and then textbooks surprised me a little bit.
Okay, site improvement, there were a number of projects that came up that were unbudgeted that we had to do. Broken water pipe, sidewalk repairs, things that we didn't budget that came up that we had to repair.
Yeah, leaking pipes.
Yeah, that's just, unfortunately, that's the way it
Okay.
is. And then, your other one was textbooks.
Yeah, textbooks surprised me a
So
little.
we have an unfunded state mandate to do English language textbook curriculum. And so we have been purchasing these materials that we need to do to meet this state requirement. Unfunded, unbudgeted. We didn't know about it when the budget was done. The total we were projecting was about $250,000. We're purchasing some of the books now. We did get a small state grant of $93,000 to offset some of that cost, but that's the bulk of that is this unfunded state mandate.
Okay, is the grant already calculated in here, or will we
It's-
get the 93 back?
No, it's all, those expenses are separate, so the 93 is on top of what is already listed here.
Wow. It's a
No,
lot for
we have
that.
not spent the full 93 yet. It is a 2-year grant. So there's still a small balance that we are spending. But the grant only covers K through grade 3, where the requirement is K through grade 5. So we have to pay for grade 4, grade 5 books.
Okay.
So there's things that the grant doesn't cover that we have to pay for.
These digital or physical, or both?
I think most of it is actual physical books. There is some teaching materials in there too, some other parts of it that are covered under this, but
Right, yeah.
it's all these materials.
Seems like a lot, though. I mean, it's just a couple hundred books, or 600 books, 500 books?
I have a stack like this of eligible materials, and the requirement is quite extensive.
Multiple books
Oh,
per
it's
student.
it's multiple titles,
Yeah.
multiple,
Is it
different.
is it one time, or, do we start buying the books on every couple of years, we replace some of them?
Depends on the curriculum.
it depends
Or
on.
we get hit with
Like
this every
science,
year?
Yeah.
Science books or,
I'm sure this is not the last.
No, and some,
Spending on state.
some of them do look like regular books, like a title book. So it's not like a textbook where you would have to update it.
Okay.
So it's an actual reading book. So that necessarily won't change. You may just have to replace copies. But
Okay.
as the curriculum,
I'm just wondering if we're gonna hit with all these costs year after year after year.
we don't know. We didn't know this one was coming.
It's tough to budget for it
Unfunded
when you
mandates.
don't know,
Right.
Yeah.
or
We
it's
can't-
coming, or you don't know what it's
We
gonna
can't
cost.
put money in the
Or it
budget
comes out
for
of
just in
somewhere else.
case.
Right.
And that's
Right.
what
Yeah.
you get to do, is reallocate.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything else on the report? Otherwise, we'll head over to warrants. Anybody has any questions on warrants? I did have a couple. So, on page 2, no, I'm sorry, page 3 of 16. Fifth one down, the Lathrop repairs and paint. I guess my question on that, we're spending money on Lathrop House, but was that immediate need that was, because there is an intention of moving out of that, right?
This was a phased-in project, so this was side 4 of the building. So we've done 3 sides of it.
So it was like
it's-
so it was phase, so you're finishing the phase?
We're
You're
finishing,
finishing the
this
project
is
with this
phase
last
4, side 4 of the
Okay.
building.
All right, well, I mean, it'll make it, at the end, when Board of Ed moves and that
Right.
building is available, it'll make it more attractive, so,
Well,
okay.
I mean, the Board of Ed pays for it now, or the town
They-
pays for it later, so it's,
Yeah,
it's-
Yeah.
we're painting it either way.
Oh, I didn't realize it was part of an ongoing project, okay.
It looks better that we give it back with all
Yep.
4 sides done than
Yeah,
just
then
3.
3, yeah, that makes sense. Same page, down near the bottom of brand services, fire and smoke door inspection for 9,500. Is that multiple schools, or is that one school, fire and smoke door inspection for brand services? I'm just curious, is that district-wide, or is that one school that had fire and smoke door inspection, or
I may
maybe
have
it was,
to get back
maybe it
to
was
you
part
on
of a
that.
project? Well, no, if it was part of a project, it'd be part of the project. Yeah, that was just one that caught my attention.
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. I don't remember off the top of my head, and I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
And then I had one other one on page,
Yeah, I just have annual fire door
7.
inspection.
There's an ethics and leadership invoice for $23,229. What was, who was getting the ethics and leadership training? That was Harvard University, is that a
Operation that
program?
runs on the shoestring, Harvard University, yeah.
I'm simply wondering what the ethics and leadership was for. Was it a program, was it individualized training?
I
That
think
was
they,
part of what they presented to the Board of Ed, so that
Yeah.
they did a whole presentation to the board in a workshop meeting. and I believe that was one of the topics in the professional development sessions this spring. Is
Yeah,
think
I
that
know
that
it was part of the
contributed to
professional
that.
development that was done during the year. I don't remember how many sessions it was.
Like, district-wide.
Yeah, and I don't want to get it confused with another one, so.
I would.
Let me follow up on that one for
If you
you.
could follow up on that one, that'd be great. Thank you.
I got a couple of more questions.
On warrants?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
And I was curious about this. I guess I haven't really asked this before, but I see a lot of name removed for privacy. And it looked like some of them were transport, so maybe you don't want to tell who the student was, but some of them looked like they were just work hours.
So the work hours are.
I remember the answer to this. Go
Our
ahead.
Oh, you
students,
remember?
Yeah, no, go
I
ahead.
don't
Yeah.
our students in one of our programs that goes out into the community and does work, and they don't get paid by the employer. We pay them a little stipend. It's part of their training for their life skills. So they learn how to go out and work in the community. They get paid a little bit. They take that check to the bank. They learn about baking. They learn about budgeting and spending their money. So it's part of their life
Basically,
skills
It's
program.
development. It's-
Yes.
Life skills.
Yeah, life skills.
Does the employer reimburse the school, or we
No.
just pay that as part of our program?
And it's something we've been budgeting for the students to, as part of their educational program. Some of them are transportation, where either the parent agrees to transport their student to an outplacement, or possibly even the student driving themselves, as opposed to us providing a bus. We also remove names for if we have to reimburse a parent per a settlement agreement. So there's multiple reasons why we take names off.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else on warrants? Or on the minutes?
We touched on it briefly, but I did send out the tuition report.
Yes.
That has changed a little bit from the previous month, basically because of the excess cost grant, and I finalized the allocation between tuition and transportation. So that changed a little bit. So last month we were at 294,000 under budget. Now we're at 397,000. So I'm
Yes.
pretty confident that we're going to
We're
stay
going to be in that,
somewhere in that area.
being the end of the year.
Yes.
Fiscal.
Just following up on the substitute teacher question, did you notice any response or increased response when the rates that we were offering
Not
our
dramatic.
substitute? No?
No.
Okay.
First Selectman Hoey, you have your hand up?
I did, but why don't we make sure you get through all the other pieces? This is a larger, more rhetorical question for Linda and the board.
Okay. All right, does anybody have anything else from the board, Frank? Okay, a rhetorical question is on.
Well, it's not really rhetorical, but section 7, Public Act 2425 passed in the Connecticut legislature this year, changed the way funding, continuing funding, surplus funding could be allocated to a Board of Education. Prior to this act, boards of finance had the ability to take surplus and put it into a non-lapsing account for the Board of Education. The legislation just changed that. The Board of Education is now entitled to do that on their own. It cannot exceed 2% of the original appropriations. It has to be used for educational purposes, but it can be put into a non-lapsing account, a sinking fund, whatever. And again, I apologize, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to Chairwoman Balistraci or Superintendent Freeman about this in terms of what the intent is. I was recently reviewing some legislative activity and change documents from CCM, and I came across this, which I had forgotten about, quite honestly. So up to 2% could be an awful lot of money, but I don't think you guys are anywhere near that in terms of what you anticipate the Board of Education surplus is going to be for this year. Linda, it's unfair to ask you this question when I should be asking Katie or Paul. But has there been any conversation about that legislation, which came through the most recent session, which ended in early May? Don't know if anybody's paid any attention to that, and whether or not you guys are thinking about exercising the authority that you have now been granted by the legislature.
The last conversation that took place with the Board of Ed was before that this was finalized, I believe. We talked about not doing any kind of contingency carryover fund, partially because of the ongoing relationship that we have with the Selectmen and with the Board of Finance, where we've always been told that in extreme circumstances, if we needed it, we could come back for an additional appropriation. This has not been discussed in any detail after the legislation was finalized. But that was the last conversation that we had about this topic at all.
Okay. Well, I and I think perhaps Chairman Ailes might want to have similar conversations with Dr. Balestration, Dr. Freeman, as to where they're going to go with it. I don't know, I'm not intimately aware of the timelines and details of when you have to actually invoke the newfound powers if you are going to do it, or my assumption is that if you do not invoke it, it just goes to the fund balance at an appropriate time. But I think it's worth a larger question, particularly if there are some potential sinking fund areas that the Board of Education might need to look at. This is a way to create a fund, because typically we have not allocated surplus funds from operating budgets to Board of Education purposes. We have done that for town governmental activities. You folks have been very generous with that over the past several years. So I would think that we might want to consider this. Again, it is up to 2%, which on a $66 million budget could be as much as 1.3 billion, but I don't think you guys are anywhere near having that kind of surplus. But if there are, I think it's worth a conversation at large with the three boards.
I agree. It's worth a conversation. Just to see, what the one question I was thinking of is, okay, so it goes into this account. Does it need to be used within a certain time frame, or is it just build? And if it builds, then you could build up quite a
My understanding is
it's like, okay, well, how is it used? And so there's a bigger discussion to that. So I'd be interested in that. Yeah.
The language that I saw is a non-lapsing account. So
right. See,
that suggests to me that there is no timeline on when they have to spend it.
But there is
But I am not
the
aware.
limit. There is the cap on how much it can
there's a
be.
cap, but if you do 2% and then you have another.
I
know
honestly,
hypothetically we're talking about big money here, but it's not that. It's not what we're talking, the 2%. But that builds, and then it's okay. So how do you use it?
Budgeting to achieve a 2% surplus every year.
Yeah. No. And no. And that's not the point. It's.
I know it's not.
But it could be perceived. So it's worth the conversation.
I have not looked at the new legislation.
Yeah, this is the first time I heard of it, so.
So it's one that I will have to look into.
Thanks for
as
bringing it
well.
up, because
Thank you, Mr. Hoey.
You're welcome.
anything for the Board of Education? Thank you, Kristen. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to accept the report of expenditures to the Board of Education for May 2024 in the amount of $5,404,703.91.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Recusals? Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the hot weather.
Enjoy your next meeting.
I know.
Yeah.
Hopefully I go down,
Meeting to
it's
meeting. Item number 6, review and approve the report of expenditures for town government for May 2024. Mary Jane.
Good.
Hello again. Revenue.
As of the end of May, we are just shy of 92% through the year, and I can't believe it's already the end of May. But anyway, we are 100.8% collected of our budget. We are just shy of $1 million over at the moment, and I expect that number could be as high as 1.5 million at the end of June, but that's just an estimate at this time. As you can see, many of our departments have brought in more revenue than budgeted. Just like to be sure we discuss the fire department. As you can see, they have brought about $110,000 more in revenue than budgeted. And I only bring that up because that is a direct correlation to the expense side. As their calls increase, so do our revenues. So just wanted to bring that to your attention.
And they're caught up, right? They're not.
Correct,
not
we are
behind, they're
not
right on-
behind.
They're not
Correct.
behind.
I mean, it could be a week or so, but we're not behind like we used to be.
Yeah.
Nope.
There's a similar relationship with
Youth and Family Services.
Correct,
Yeah.
exactly right. Although on Youth and Family Services, we have grants to cover the overages and their expenses, so you don't see the overage there like you would in the fire department. This morning, the Board of Selectmen asked about some of the line items that have not reached their budget. On the town clerk side, you'll notice that their conveyance fees and their recording fees are both down this year. We did anticipate that by the time we were coming into this budget, so in next year's budget, we have brought those numbers down. Some of our sales have been reduced since the high during COVID. So that budget went way up, and now we're going to be starting to bring it back down to a more level playing field. Let's see. The health department, a similar story. They've had less means to go out on inspections. A lot of things that are not happening now that were happening during COVID. So it's similar. We're going to be bringing down that budget in the next year. And Park and Rec has about 15,000 left to bring in, but this is their busy time of year.
Yeah,
with,
they're close.
Beach passes, kayaks, that type of thing. So we do anticipate them coming in their budget. So the items that might come in lower, I mean, it is a budget. Some things come in lower, some things come in higher. Luckily, on the revenue side, we have other departments that are bringing in more than their budgeted revenue to make up for those who aren't unable to do so. Any questions?
I had a couple questions.
Of course.
I wanted to ask you about your department.
Yep.
So a surplus of about 550,000. Was that because you cut back on copier paper, or what happened there?
That is strictly interest income.
That's all higher interest rates.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we did say I had anticipated being about 1.2, I think I estimated a few months ago. So we're already at 1. We did increase that budget, as you know, we increased it on our end, and then you increased it some more. So we have big shoes to fill. We can only hope that the interest rates remain where they are.
Okay, and then on the selectmen line, I assume we sold something.
Correct. Those are sales of surplus.
Sell a nice
yes.
fire truck. What did we sell for 130,000?
Many different things.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of different things. We've had a couple pieces of equipment that may have brought in $4,000 or $5,000, but the bulk of it is small items that make that up.
Okay, and then this made me smile. The golf course looks like they have taken in more revenue.
Golf course again.
Significant
Ever
amount of
since
revenue.
COVID has been doing very well, and they continue to do so. And so we do anticipate them having another good month this month. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, I got one other kind of big question. We talked a lot during the budget season about some grants money we got back unexpectedly. 953,000 was the estimate. Is that reflected in revenue? Where do we see that money? Have we received it? Or?
It's in this other departmental. We still we have some more grants that we have not yet received that we will in June. But we do have one grant that that will not be coming in, so it does reduce that $900,000 slightly. But that's this $430,000 that you see, and in June we'll have the remainder
So
of what's
we've
coming in.
received 430 so far?
Over what we budgeted, yes.
We've
Yep.
yet to receive.
Okay,
We
and
have yet
that's
to receive more.
probably part of your feeling that we might end up with 1.5
Correct,
million
exactly right.
down the road.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
that's part of it.
It's all part of it.
Okay.
Matt, your hand is up.
Or is that from before?
Or is- Matt, you have anything for us?
No.
Your hand
Oh,
is
okay.
raised.
Your hand is up.
Sorry, I just looked up and your hand was up. so-
Okay, it's still there
Oh,
from before.
sorry about that.
No worries, no worries, just want to make sure.
It was still there. Usually I get the countdown. You got 8 seconds to lower your hand, but for some reason I didn't.
No, usually I forget to look up. So there's that. Anything else on revenue? Okay, expenses.
So on the expenditure side, you'll see if we stick with just the town is at 93.7%, slightly less than where we were this time last year. Most of our departments are within range of where they should be at this time. Again, I'll note that the information systems and the capital line both have items that the selectmen had chosen to move from fund balance. The money that we set aside in fund balance will be used to cover those line items, so they will be whole at the end of the year. We have begun looking at encumbrances, specifically with the fire department. We have been looking very closely at their encumbrances and have brought them way down through the end of May. Since their budget is, they only have $47,000 left, which obviously means that they will be going over budget at the end of the year. A lot of it due to replacement costs, but we also have some large vehicle expenses that had not been accounted for in our budget, which was approximately $25,000. We had some work that needed to be done on the HVAC at the fire department. That was about $15,000. And lastly, the medical supplies, if you look at that line item, are over budget. Again, we have more calls, we have more revenue, we have more expense. Every time the ambulance has to go out, we have to replace the items that are in there for supplies. So it's a domino effect that hits many of the departments. But we're working very closely with the chief and the assistant chief on their budget, as we have been all year long. Not sure if anybody has any other specific questions on expenditures.
See, legal is way down. More people like us now?
Well, maybe not so. We continue to see a reduction in the legal department as we work our way into budgeting now. We no longer have an employee that works for our town council in that department. If you remember, we consolidated that into finance. So the expenses in the legal departments are vastly reduced because of that. Plus, as we budget for contract negotiations, and we just completed negotiations on one of our contracts, but we do have a couple other contracts that are still under negotiations, so those expenses might move into next year. So, but we do expect to have a surplus in legal, just as we reported when we made the transition of the purchasing area into finance.
And economic development,
Economic development, we just
Staffing.
recently hired
staffing.
a new person about a week ago or so they started. Matt could probably know specifically more. But so we have gone quite a few months without an employee in that department, so there's savings there.
Is that a split with Madison, or are they not doing that anymore?
It was a split with Madison. I don't believe we're going to be doing that in this particular case.
Okay. Can you tell
We
me
are,
about...
Mr. Chairman, we are not doing Madison. They opted out of that opportunity, owing to the fact that First Selectman Peggy Lyons was looking for someone that did more communications work than economic development work. So we're back to how we had it structured when Brian McClone was working in that rollout. Sherry Cody, before she became a shared resource with Madison, and Brian McGlone. John Tarudis, Guilford resident, longtime Guilford resident, a business development guy at Yelna Haven Health System, is now fulfilling the role.
So it's part-time, I see?
Part-time.
Yes, 24 hours. It's similar to the old structure.
Can you tell me about the capital line?
Yes, so on the capital line, we have a number of items that we have budgeted from ARPA funds and also through fund balance funds that we have set aside. What we do, we expend that through our capital line so we can capture all of those expenditures in one place, and then at the end of the year, we will move those funds over.
Okay, will we do a transfer for that?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll probably get that almost $500,000 back?
Oh, 100%.
100%?
That the line item will not be overdrawn after the transfers, correct?
That's great news.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Questions on expenses? Special fund warrants. Warrant. Any warrants? Before we get to the big one, medical.
I never have a problem talking about medical.
Medical was a big one.
Okay.
Talk about a complete reversal.
Well, I said it could happen.
Yep, listen, there shouldn't be any surprises.
I absolutely said it could happen, and here we are.
There it is.
So, anyway, so for the month of May, we had another large increase in claims. We budget $1,090,000 each month on average, and in May, it was $1.8 million, up about $400,000 from the month before. We do expect those numbers to increase. This is a little larger increase than we had budgeted for, but if you remember, we did choose to take some of the funding that would have been in our large claims, specifically relating to lasering, and to use our fund balance. So this is where we're seeing that. I would expect another large bump next month as well, maybe not higher than where we are today, but probably about where we were in May. Similarly, on the catastrophic claims, we've gone from 4 million to 5.1. We are up 8 claims over 75,000 and up 3 claims over 150,000 over April, bringing that to 42%. 42% is higher than we've seen in the last few years. Our goal is typically 70. Not sure in 1 month we're going to make that, but we're definitely having a larger percentage than we have in the past. One thing we have with our new large claim vendor, and I'm not going to be able to give you a number and not even a guess, so don't ask, but there is a clause in the contract that if we don't hit the numbers that we expect, that we do get a rebate. So we will be getting a rebate back, I would anticipate, from what we have paid against stop loss. Brand new to me, we have no idea what that number is going to be, but that is in our contract. So we probably won't see that until next fiscal year, maybe August, possibly September, but I'm expecting to see some of that premium come back. But I really can't tell you if it's 10,000 or 100,000 or I really have no idea what that's going to be. Once we once we experience it this year, we may have a better idea, moving forward. But I think that's a fabulous clause that we have in our contract. So even though we're not at 70%, possibly with the funds that we get back, it'll bring us obviously closer to that number.
So you said the ISL percentage went from 34.7 to 40.
41.98.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be a line there. That number.
Do you see the 41.98 though, right?
No,
It still says
No.
34.7.
34.7.
Well, it's.
Oh, you know what happened?
It didn't come in. That line didn't come in. So.
Correct. I'm gonna tell you what happened. While I was away, I got the stop loss numbers, and I think, I think it was uploaded to the Board of Selectmen, and it wasn't uploaded to the Board of Finance. I apologize for that. We are at 41.9%.
I highlighted it, but you mentioned it.
I'm
so
sorry.
It's in the minutes. We know.
I apologize. I checked the Selectmen's meeting this morning, and I made an assumption, obviously wrong,
Yeah, okay.
that both were updated.
Yeah, but-
So let me tell you that the claims are
yeah.
$5,168,358, and the amount covered by ISL for May is $592,759. So
Okay.
that's where the increase is, and I'll be sure that this gets updated to board.
Yeah, it'll
so
be
you can
updated next
review it.
month.
I apologize for that.
But like you said, there's, to go from that 42 number percent is.
Correct.
To go to 70 is.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
It's a long
much,
shot.
But we were seeing numbers in the teens the last couple of years.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so we're good. But anyway, bottom line, at this point, we are projecting a deficit of $500,000 in the medical fund, which can handle, our medical fund can handle that. And like I said, we did anticipate using some of the fund balance, and again, in this coming year. We also made some decisions to use part of the fund balance. I think I talked about that a little bit when we were doing our budget preps. So what I like about this is it is it's a good use of the fund balance. It's a good way to use the fund balance instead of just, obviously taking it out and using it for OPEB helps our numbers tremendously, and I would never say we shouldn't do that, but just the fund balance itself, this is a fabulous use, and it's a budgeted use of it. It's not
what it's there
just,
for.
correct.
It's supposed to smooth out the ups and downs, sure.
I'm not too eloquent on how I should say it, but,
Well, it does have, there's one of the things I think some of us have been thinking about is, the fund balance and using that for OPEB and how much, because I think it's, I think we want to do that.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, when you have a $500,000 hit, now you got to be a little bit careful before you start taking any, is it $1 million, $2 million, $3 million?
Right.
It goes into the play of figuring out what's the right amount, but this is all going to shake out before we make any kind of a move.
and
but
it's a good way to
But this
keep-
is a good.
yeah, it's a good
yeah.
way to keep our budget down for the medical,
Yeah.
and
That shows responsible.
And it also keeps our, the fees down for our employees, when we do that. So it's a win-win for everyone.
At one time, I think you might have said that you want to keep at least 3 months
Absolutely.
in there, so we'll still be at 3 months.
Over 3 million,
At the current
right.
level. But I could have sworn you said you thought June might be as big a claims as
It
May.
could be, it could be.
That would set us back another 600
Yep,
or so thousand.
yep.
If it's as big.
If it is.
Yep, yep.
It's hard to
Maybe
say.
that's
If I only had a crystal ball, I
budgeted
could, if we only had a crystal ball.
I
And
know what they all got up to that Friday when they were all out.
Right, and, the other thing we talked about the selectmen's meeting this morning is, this is exactly why we wait until the very last minute to give you medical numbers, because they look at these claims, and they want to see the full year, because the first part of the year, although they can see the total amount, it's not always a clear indication of where we're going to be. So the companies look for that full year to see where we stand, and we budget to the absolute best of our ability with the data we have at the time.
Would it be fair to say that the amount that was saved, that we found out about after we went through the whole budget process, and then we found out we saved in medical, that would have had it would have been a different savings if that 1.8 hit, and they saw that? Would that have made an effect?
It could have, yes.
Oh, if they calculated that
Yes,
in there.
because that's what I
Oh,
said
yeah.
to
Yeah,
the
that's
selectmen this
All of a sudden
morning.
you get a big month, and
I
it's
doubt
like,
that one.
oh, wait a minute.
Right, I
hold
doubt that
on.
1.8 was included, obviously,
Yeah. No,
by the
yeah,
time we had those
exactly.
numbers, so.
It's just, that's
Yep.
the part that they
And
were.
like I said, we work really hard on these numbers, and we go by the data that we have, and that's all we can do.
So I probably shouldn't ask you about ISL till next month from what you said, but I was curious, aside from the rebate, are the terms basically the same for ISL next year?
Yes.
Kind of similar premium, similar stop loss amounts?
Similar, yes.
Okay. With the rebate? might help us
Correct,
if we
yeah,
run into
and-
this again.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to give you any false hope that we're going to get millions back, but there's, something's going to come back at least. And I've talked to our consultant about that, and they have to wait until the year is over and everything is balanced and whatever before they determine that. So hopefully I can get back to you, at least by August, hopefully with that number, but I just wanted to let you know that we do have not only the savings in stop loss, but actually a clause that helps us with our numbers.
Well, glad you did the renegotiation. It's definitely something I keep bringing up, right? Our experience with medical. And then you got the discounted premiums, and then possibly the rebate, another perhaps potential
Yep,
plus.
we have an
Okay.
excellent working group that consisting of Board of Ed and town employees that work on that. So it's, I would say it's one of the best examples of us working together. I think it is we work together on a lot of things, but the medical is one thing that I think we really work the hardest on and really come to a consensus between the two groups. So we're proud of that.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything else on town government questions? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the report of expenditures of the town government for May 2024 in the amount of $2,719,194.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Recusals?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Mary Jane.
Number 7, committee reports, building permits, anything there? Go on to item number 8, old business. I did have one item, and it's just one that the firefighter OPEB task force.
So it was supposed to start July 1st. I don't know if that's starting July 1st, but is it starting July 1st? So they're going to move over to the IAFF health plan.
Okay, starting July 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
So but that's active and retirees.
Okay.
So they're gonna move it, so we had just talked as a board about the retirees, but then the committee expanded it to active and retirees, so they're gonna come out of the full healthcare plan pool and be in their own plan. Does that make sense?
How does
So
that
they're
affect
gonna-
our budget?
It's nominal, don't worry, I asked that question.
Okay, I'm sure you did.
Because I was worried it was going to be a little unfair overall, because
Yeah.
it would obviously increase the cost for, but I think overall the impact is minimal.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually should be seeing a savings
Yeah.
in the medical, and I'll just add that when we're working on the medical budget next year, we'll be doing it slightly different, only because right now, all of these firefighters, not the retirees, because we don't offer that yet, but
Yeah.
the current firefighters are in our Anthem numbers. So that's where the money is budgeted. So in order for me to pay IAFF, I have to use the medical money, because that's where
Yeah.
you have budgeted the money. When we budget for the following year, my recommendation is probably going to be to treat it similar to the way we do our Teamsters. Teamsters have separate medical, we have a separate bill for them. It's budgeted through the medical budget, but not into the Anthem account.
It's a different allocation.
Right, it's just a different allocation. So for now, I have to use that money because that's where it is. But next year it'll just be slightly different. So I'm not sure I can quote the percentages, but there was an increase in the percentage of copay that the firefighters will pay towards this insurance. There was a give and take. It wasn't just, here's your new insurance because you wanted it, and so they're going to increase. But overall, the costs are less for the employees and the town at this point for the first year.
The IAF plan is cheaper than
And I imagine that when you go out to quote the next year with Anthem, they'll say, oh, you don't have these firefighters, and that, that's a pool that
Correct.
should
It's
have-
good. It's good and bad because it was a pretty decent pool of people.
Yeah.
So there's
You're
pluses
less-
and minuses to taking people out of your pool because now you
Yeah.
don't have those people in your pool. They won't be in there, correct.
The only thing to look out for long-term with IAF is just what their increase is gonna be. It'll vary, right? So they're gonna have a different, because you're pooling with other towns, so there's a bunch of other firefighter companies in that. So that'll, like, their increase will be impacted outside of the bargaining of the town.
I know we discussed with them having a clause in our contract that allowed us to review that before we stayed with it, so we kind of got a little bit of an out in case those costs increase too much. That was a concern.
My concern because it was not like super steady over a period of time. There was like 11%, 3%, 2%, 4%. But
Yeah, so
we'll just have to look.
We tried to account for that in the contract, just to allow us, like I said, an out. I wasn't part of the negotiation, but I know that that's what we had looked for. So.
But the pro is we'll have retiree healthcare, which a lot of the towns around us already have. So it should help us with retention.
Retention,
Yeah.
That was the point.
Yeah.
That was the whole,
Yeah.
whole reason.
And it's individual and spouse, I believe, right?
Yes, no
Yeah,
family.
no
just
family.
spouse for
But,
retirees.
yeah.
Thank you for your service on that.
Matt, I'm sure is glad it's over, because I was a big state partnership proponent, and that's, but it all worked out.
He's smiling up there.
So,
Yeah, but this one worked out fine. We
yeah,
were able to extend a benefit level that heretofore did not exist. And we were also able to see real dollar savings year over year, not only for the town, but for the firefighters. Mary Jane brings up a good point. We have less of a base to spread our risk upon for the balance of our employees who are not going to be able to qualify for the IAFF. And that's where Megan comes in with some of the partnership stuff, et cetera. And I'm not sure that we can negotiate some of the same language that we did with the IAFF relative to getting out if increases exceeded a certain level. Because I think as Megan has just mentioned, over time, some of those increases have been pretty dramatic. Some years not so dramatic. So this gives us an opportunity. But what we need to remember was this was a recruitment and retention tool, and we're able to offer employee health care for retirees from the age of 55 till they're eligible for Medicare. That was the driving force on this negotiation.
and that'll be huge to keep. I think there's 2 paramedics, at least that I know of, that are staying because of that would have otherwise left, so that it has been working to keep people, yeah.
And just for the record, for many years, because it is precedent throughout the state municipal contracts with police departments, they have medical coverage from the time they're eligible to retire after either 20 or 25 years of service, depending on what contract they're in. And the firefighters in Guilford had continued to try to compare themselves to that, like many other fire departments do throughout the state. But what's interesting from our perspective is when we put in a full-time firefighting department a little over around 20 years ago or so, these benefits were never contemplated, nor were they negotiated when they brought the IAFF in. I think that was largely because folks did not want to unveil a benefits package that was as extensive and potentially as costly as the one that we offer to the police department.
Well, we just come from an all-volunteer base as well.
Yes, you're absolutely right. No.
Culture shift.
So I think there was incrementalism involved. Let's get the full-time paid firefighter in here, and at some point we'll start to look at the benefits down the road at a different point. So.
Great. Thank you all. Yep.
While we're at it, earlier this morning, the Board of Selectmen approved the contract negotiations with our dispatchers one of the key sticking points in that negotiate, a couple of, well, one of the key sticking points was they were trying to get the 2 individuals who are currently working as dispatchers who are not on the defined benefit plan, as the 5 other members are currently enjoying. So we put a balloon up there relative to some negotiations that will be taking place with police next year and a couple of our other unions, where we increased the match on the 401k. This is one of the strategies that has been utilized by other municipalities throughout the state as bargaining units, particularly public safety bargaining units, have been pushing to restore defined contribution plans. This is one way to make the defined the defined benefit plan. This is a way to make a defined contribution plan extremely more attractive. We have, to this point, for all of those employees who are on defined contributions plans, we've matched up to 8%. We will now match, which is basically a 1-to-1 match, as you go from whatever percentage you put in. We'll now go to 150. So someone who puts in 8% will receive 12% on their 401k. And then again, this is part of a larger strategy to preserve and protect the value of the 401, the defined contribution plan, as opposed to a defined benefit plan. So we'll see how this plays out in some of our other negotiations.
Matt, are you still on the committee looking at like the tiered CMERS plans?
Yes,
Okay.
As I think you know, they did pass some legislation to put together a more representative board that would look at the plans. And it is my understanding that we're going to be looking at a variety of plans through CMERS, which include provisions which do not include provisions that are in the current CMERS 1.0 or whatever they wanted to call it. It's a little more of a shared risk model, and I look forward to seeing what comes out of that.
Okay.
One of the things that the CMERS plan will potentially offer, I've heard it on good authority from some guy who works up in Hartford, who says that there will be a defined contribution plan amongst the CMERS plan offerings. So
Okay.
there are other concerns that other municipalities have. I participated in a work group on that. There are concerns shared by a bunch of municipalities. Automatic cost of living adjustments, automatic inclusion of overtime, and those are the things that several municipal leaders brought to the table and said, those are the things we can't afford with CMERS 1.0. And I think there was a great response by the office, as well as even the labor folks who were at the table and will be at the table on the CMERS board, the new CMERS board going forward.
Okay, great. Yeah, that'll be exciting to see what comes out of that.
Yes, absolutely. We look forward to seeing it. And one last point: there are some municipalities who have actually gone back to defined contribution plans, but in nowhere near shape or form are they resembling the previous plans. They are a plan that is a contribution plan, which has a fixed component, if you will, a defined benefit plan, as well as a defined contribution plan. It's a hybrid plan, so there's a lot of stuff happening in the municipal market right now relative to this stuff, and we're just at the forefront of it.
Yeah, that's great.
Great, thank you. Sounds like
Exciting.
that was our new business. Is there anything else under old business or new business?
That is no business.
Yeah, that's new business. Put it on there. And number 10, public forum. Seeing and hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All fit.
I'll stop fixing.
Are they playing tonight?
Yep.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, they are.
No.
Oh, that's ridiculous.